Hey YouTube, Bob here with the next installment in my Nintendo Unboxed playlist. And this is actually the fifth and final video in my DS unboxing series. And in this one we're going to take a look at the new Nintendo 3DS XL and the new Nintendo 3DS. Now both of these were released, or at least they have a copyright of 2015 on the box, and I think they were released in the same year. But unlike most Nintendo handhelds in the 3DS or 2DS line, the XL version actually came out first, and I think I'm remembering that correctly. I'm pretty sure I am, because I think I remember being disappointed when they first announced the new Nintendo 3DS XL that the standard version would be available only in Japan. But of course, Nintendo later went back and did release it in the United States, albeit in this Animal Crossing configuration here. But we'll get into that as we move along through the unboxing here. So you may think that since this is the final video, the fifth and final video in my DS series of unboxing, that one of these two consoles is the last in the 3DS or 2DS line, and that's actually not true, because both of these were released in 2015, but it was the new Nintendo 2DS XL that would close out the 3DS/2DS line in 2017. But it would be an additional 3 years until Nintendo announced the official end of the lifespan of the 3DS and 2DS in the year 2020. But this was still 5 years before that, and this is new. This is part of their new line. This was kind of more of a pro version of the original hardware, in which it included built-in NFC support for scanning your amiibos. Previously, you had to buy a separate little infrared pedestal that would interface with the 3DS or 2DS via its infrared blaster. But this is built right in here. There was a C-stick, which kind of functioned as a second analog stick for shooter-type games that required that. A little bit of a faster processor, but the most intriguing improvement here was the Super Stable 3D, where you could actually see, I think it was near the camera, there was a sensor, and it would kind of locate your eyes and lock onto your eyes and kind of fix the 3D viewing angle to wherever it noticed your eyes were. So that really improved the 3D visual effect. You no longer had to keep the controller perfectly still as you held it in the sweet spot between your eyes. So that was a very welcome addition here. And of course, this being an XL, it has very large screens. So let's take a look. Got the branding on one side, got some warnings on the other side, and on the long end, or the short end here, we've got the branding with the serial number, and then the end that we're actually going to open in just a moment here. But before we do that, let's take a look at the back. Just like pretty much all the 3DS and 2DS packaging, it's showcasing all the hardware that comes in with the OS. It says, "The next dimension in entertainment. The new Nintendo 3DS XL combines next-generation portable gaming with super stable 3D technology and added control features. Take 3D photos, connect with friends, and enhance your gaming experiences with added amiibo support. The new Nintendo 3DS XL system plays all Nintendo DS games. Nintendo DS games will not appear in 3D. The amiibo figure shown is not actual size and is subject to availability." Yes, it was. Those were hard to find back then. Visit amiibo.com for specific details of compatibility and functionality. Now, I mentioned earlier that I was disappointed that at the time of the announcement of the release of this new Nintendo 3DS XL, that the standard version would not be appearing alongside it in the United States. There was something else that a lot of people were disappointed with, and that's noted right here. AC adapter sold separately. New Nintendo 3DS XL uses the same AC adapter as Nintendo DSi, Nintendo 3DS, and 2DS. So that's really their rationale right there, is that they figure that a lot of fans or a lot of potential customers for this product already own an AC adapter, and from a cost-saving measure, it's a sound idea, and from an ecological perspective, it's a sound idea. But they would eventually go back on it with the new 2DS XL, which did ship with an AC adapter. So let's take a look. What do we have in the box here? No sticker to seal it. There we go. Greeted with a little cardboard tab here that we can pull back. And then the whole thing pulls out just like so. So in the bag, we've got our documentation, which for this particular configuration of the hardware is your AR cards pack. Got quite a few of those by now. And then the instruction manual. Looks like the quick start guide is not a separate piece of documentation this time around. It's actually in the operations manual, which as always is in 3 languages: French, English, and Spanish. So we open it up here, and it's not black and white. There's a little bit of a color accent there, red being the color accent. But if you remember the detail and the colorful pages of the original 3DS manual, you can definitely see the cost-saving measures that were implemented here. So there's your manual. And then let's get to the hardware itself right here. Tucked away in this little cardboard cave. A little foamy pillow that it's in. I got the red version, I believe. Oh gosh, I think there was like a gold version. I think it was red and gold were the initial launch colors of the new Nintendo 3DS XL. But color aside, we've got our 2 cameras on the top here. On the front, the cartridge slot has made a move from the back to the front here. We've got our headphone jack and the stylus, which is in the same spot as the 2DS, a new 2DS XL, but is a little bit bigger than that stylus, which is nice because that one was, I would say the new Nintendo 2DS XL had the worst stylus of the bunch. Then you got your power, and then your LED indicators for charging and wireless connectivity are right there on the edge here. So we flip it around to this side, not too much there except for your 3D slider, which is really to be used when the system is opened. You got your L and ZL and ZR and R triggers, which the L and R again function as your shutter for your camera. Lanyard strap mount right there. You've got your charging jack, and then these 2 little panels here are for the charging dock, which was an available accessory to buy. And then you got your infrared blaster. And turning it around to this side here, not that side. Was it that side? Oh my gosh, it was that side. Yeah, it looks like we have another slider here. This one I'm assuming might be for volume. So one thing I didn't notice right off the bat was the SD card. It must be the case that the SD card is actually behind this panel here, so you might have to take the panel off in order to access the SD card, because I do not see an exterior slot here for that. We'll open it up, but I don't think we're going to see anything like that inside. So there we are. Remove the little foam protector there. Happy to see the 2 front-firing stereo speakers on either side of the very, very large upper screen. You got your camera, and then there's the sensor for the improved 3D. Got your Circle Pad, and then kind of your Circle Pad Pro nub right here. And then the colors that they use for the buttons actually mimic a Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller. Actually, let me go back. No, they do not mimic the Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller. They mimic the color scheme of the Super Famicom and the Super Nintendo, released in every other territory but the United States. Got the green, blue, yellow, and red A, B, Y, and X buttons, along with your select and start, and of course your home button. So this was a very nice improvement over the original 3DS, specifically as it pertains to the improved 3D. But I was really interested in as well the standard edition of this, which, as I mentioned before, was announced that it wouldn't be coming to the U.S. So I actually imported one from Japan, but then it turned out later on that Nintendo did release this standard version of the new Nintendo 3DS, albeit the configuration I could find it in at the time was with Animal Crossing. And what's unique about this, and one of the things that I was so interested in, were these removable and customizable faceplates, which I thought was so cool. But while Nintendo did bring the new Nintendo 3DS over from Japan, the interchangeable, buy them separately faceplates, well, those all stayed in Japan. That was something that Nintendo did not market over here, unfortunately. So we'll compare this model to my Japanese model that just has some plain white faceplates on it. But you get the Animal Crossing game, Happy Home Designer with this one, and then you get your Isabelle cover plates here. But you can see the branding on all the sides here. Pretty much a standard issue by this point. We're not actually seeing the software laid out here this time, but it still is touting the new Super Stable 3D, the built-in NFC support, the faster processor, and the C-Stick. This one says pretty much verbatim what the other one said. So it does mention the cover plates though. The next dimension in entertainment. The new Nintendo 3DS system combines next-generation portable gaming in a compact size with super stable 3D technology, added control features, and interchangeable cover plates, which we're not going to sell here in the United States. Take 3D photos, connect with friends, and enhance your gaming experiences with added amiibo support. The new Nintendo 3DS system plays all Nintendo DS games. Nintendo DS games will not appear in 3D. The amiibo figure shown is not actual size and subject to availability. Visit amiibo.com for specific details of compatibility and functionality. And again, AC adapter sold separately. They remind you that they included one with all the other iterations and you can just use that one. So if this is your first ever 3DS, you're going to have to buy an adapter. But regardless, the box still is pretty heavy and takes on quite a bit of different form factor than the original here. It's quite a bit thicker, probably due to those face plates. So let's see what we have going on in here. Box, pull out the tray, and it looks like right away we are met with the faceplates themselves. So it's a combination of having little screws right here, which you did need a mini screwdriver to actually use. I wonder if Nintendo included that. I'll be looking for that in the package because not everybody has jeweler screwdrivers like that. So that might actually make it unusable right out of the box if Nintendo didn't include those screws there. Or screwdriver rather. So it's just a little cardboard separator retainer tray for the faceplates. And we have our documentation. This one has a little bit more than the original, or the XL rather. It's probably got documentation for Animal Crossing and some cards as well. So it got the AR cards as always. Got some Animal Crossing amiibo cards. Here's the code to download the game. A little explanation about what amiibo cards are and how to use them in the game. Got a little bit of, about replacing the cover plates. This is interesting. The manual included with this system uses the illustrations of the new Nintendo 3DS XL. However, the information contained in the manual is applicable to both the new 3DS and the 3DS XL. This insert includes additional information about the interchangeable cover plate feature only for the new Nintendo 3DS system. So, replacing the cover plates. You can replace the cover plates supplied with your new Nintendo 3DS with additional sets. Always make sure the cover plates are securely attached before using it. If a child will be the primary user of the system, a parent or guardian should assist with this procedure. Make sure the system is turned off. Loosen the screws on the back plate with a screwdriver, not included. So yeah, you're on your own to find that number 0 screwdriver that you would need for the back plate. But for the other plates there, it looks like your stylus doubles as kind of a pry bar there, and you can pry up the edges to remove it. So this is just a supplement for the cover plate swapping out in 3 different languages. And then you have the manual, which is thinner and thinner, but still is in 3 languages here. Start guide is, the quick start guide is included, but again, of course, all kind of in black and white with a little bit of a red accent. But I find it interesting that they didn't even bother to reshoot the images. It is, as they said, the 3DS XL. So they really weren't intending this to be popular. And it even, let's see here. Yeah, it even says it on there. They didn't do any changes to this, really. Interesting. All right, so move all the paperwork aside. Let's look at the machine itself. We're not going to see too much of a difference between this and what we've already seen. Looks like, got a different faceplate there. This is the Isabelle one. All right, how does this come out? It looks like... There we go. A little bit of a puzzle there. Oof. So it looks like this top one you got to put on. I'll be able to do that for us here. But since I don't have the screwdriver, we'll just leave the bottom one as it is. But there we go. You got all that information that would normally be printed on the back, but you can kind of hide it under the faceplate this time. So let's take the faceplate out of its bag here. And looks like it's going to go this way. The 2 tabs there. And boom. There we go. We got the Isabelle new Nintendo 3DS. So I really do like this design here, and one of the things I like most are the buttons, the A, B, Y, and X. The color, it really brings me back to the Super Nintendo days, which oddly enough, you know, when I was growing up I had the lavender and purple buttons, but I always liked the Skittle color buttons of the Japanese and European version. But we got our game card, headphone jack, stylus, power, pretty much exactly the same as its larger counterpart here. Then we turn it around, we got the slider, got our R and L buttons, charging port, infrared blaster, all the same as the XL that we already took a look at. And then on this side, nothing much, just a slider for the volume. So, can open it up here. Screens are a bit smaller, but it does retain the improved 3D and the Circle Pad Pro and the NFC compatibility. But I really did like the color of the buttons there that they included. So let's take a look at the difference in screen size between the two here. Quite a big difference there in screen size. Very nice. Alright, so I said we would compare this to my Japanese version, which I believe just has plain old white stock plates on it. Nothing too fancy here. So this is the Japanese version. For all intents and purposes, it's pretty much identical to the US version. The only difference is, of course, the OS is in Japanese, and I believe that 3DS games are not region locked. I think this is the first system where the region locking went away, although I might be wrong on that. If you remember better than I do about region locking, let me know. But that pretty much wraps it up for my DS line of Nintendo unboxings here. Now that Nintendo has officially brought to a close the lifespan of the 3DS and 2DS, I thought it would be an appropriate time to take a look back. So if you haven't seen the other 4 editions before this one, I encourage you to do so. They're all included in my Nintendo Unboxed playlist. So stay tuned for new videos. I'm going to have some more content coming up for you very shortly. Until then, though, take care, take it easy, enjoy yourself, and you'll see me in the next one.